Happy New Year, everyone. 2019 has arrived and we are all excited because we have a brand new year to play with. How has 2019 been for you so far? Has it been exciting or has it been a big disappointment? In today's live stream, we'll be talking all about jokes and humour. Do you have a good sense of humour? What do you find funny? Do you like to laugh? Do you like to smile? Do you like to find all of the joyous things that life has to give? We'll be talking about that later on. Also, Mr. Steve will be here as well, and we'll be talking all about New Year's resolutions. We are just 6 days into 2019, but the big question is, have I kept any of my New Year's resolutions? Well, I can safely say that I have kept at least one of them. So all of that to come today. After all, it's a Sunday afternoon. It's just after 2 o'clock here in the UK. It's 2019 and this is Live English. Live from Much Wenlock in England on a Sunday afternoon. This is Live English. It sure is, baby. Everything will be fine in 2019. Yes, it is a new year, but it's the same old show. I'm sorry about that. Hi, everybody. Happy New Year. How are you today? Are you okay? I hope so. Are you happy? Are you happy and fine for 2019? Do you think that will catch on? I'm not sure. Yes, it's Sunday. It's a fun day. It's time to improve your English listening because we are live once again across the World Wide Web. Live on YouTube, no less. And we are just 6 days into 2019. How has the year been for you so far? Has it been a good year? Have you had a nice year so far? Has everything gone well up to this point during 2019? I hope so. Today we're talking about the new year. We'll also be finding out whether or not I have been following my New Year's resolutions. If you remember last week, I talked about my New Year's resolutions with Steve, and I mentioned that I have some plans for the new year. So this year, I plan to lose weight, to swear less, also don't waste time. I don't want to waste my precious time. In other words, Mr. Duncan, don't be so lazy. Also, I want to walk more as well, be more active. So how many of these New Year's resolutions have I kept so far? Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Mr. Duncan, it's only 6 days. We've only had 6 days of 2019. It's far too early to start talking about whether or not you stick with your New Year's resolutions. But I think it's a good thing to review these things. It's a good thing to check every week to make sure that you are following the things that you planned to do. Of course, it is a new year. I suppose we should have some fireworks. Would you like to have some fireworks because it is a new year? And kaboom! Boo! Yes, 2019 has arrived. It's very exciting, isn't it? And last week, Mr. Steve and myself, we stood outside and we watched all of the lovely fireworks that were being launched around the area in which we live. And there were lots of fireworks last When was it? Last Tuesday. Was that New Year's Day last Tuesday? It seems such a long time ago now. Today, by the way, is a special day because we are putting away all of our Christmas lights and all of our Christmas decorations, because today, you might not know this, but it is the 12th night. 12 nights after Christmas. And traditionally, you will put away your Christmas tree and your Christmas lights. And this is what we did last year. Would you like to see Mr. Steve and myself putting away the Christmas tree? It's a Sunday. It's a fun day. If you've just joined us, thank you very much for spending your Sunday afternoon, or perhaps your Sunday morning, or maybe even your Sunday night with me. It's very kind of you to join me today. It's live English for those who aren't aware. Maybe you have clicked on this live stream and you have no idea what is going on. My name is Duncan. I teach English on YouTube. I have been doing this for over 12 years and I'm live every Sunday. You can see the details underneath the screen right now. Every Sunday, 2 p.m. UK time. It's myself, and also coming later on, yes, you know who I'm talking about. Mr. Steve will be here after 2:30.
Did it get colder in here, or is it just me?
I think it's just you, Mr. Steve. Yes, it's definitely just you. So Mr. Steve is coming later. He has some special phrases, some expressions, some words, all to do with today's main theme, which is jokes and humour. Now, I don't know about you, but I love jokes. I love telling jokes. I love hearing jokes. I love hearing new jokes, because you do often find that people tell the same jokes all the time. They often repeat jokes. So it's always very refreshing when someone comes up with a new joke that no one's ever heard before. I always remember when I was in China, I used to tell lots of very old jokes that people here in the UK were very familiar with. But in China, people had never heard the jokes before. So even though to me the jokes were very old, to people in China, they were brand new jokes. They had never been heard before. So I quite liked that. It was almost as if I was inventing all of these very old jokes myself, but I wasn't. So that's one of the interesting things about humour. What about you? Do you have a good sense of humour? Do you find things funny? Do you find things generally funny? Do you have a very light sense of humour? Do you enjoy every day of your life? Do you tend to look on the bright side of life? So having a good sense of humour can cover many things. What makes you laugh? Are there any certain TV programs that you watch? Later on, I will be talking about some of my favourite TV programs and things that myself and Mr. Steve find funny. So that's coming up later on. Don't forget also we have the live chat. You can get in touch as well. Live, yes. In fact, I think we will have a look at the live chat right now. The big question, of course, is who was first on the live chat? Let's have a look, shall we? Ooh. So there it is, the live chat. Thank you very much for joining me. And I do realise that many of you are having a lovely rest on Sunday. So I do appreciate the fact that you join me on Sunday. Well done to Julia. Julia is first on the live chat. So can I first say well done? And of course you get a big round of applause. Julia is first on the live chat. Also we have Matrix. Hello Matrix, nice to see you here today. I was wondering whether or not you were going to change your name, because your name of course is Matrix 2018, but I thought you were going to change your name to 2019, you see, to celebrate the new year. Martha is here, Tomek, Blue Thunder. Also we have Pedro. Don't forget, Pedro is one of the moderators on the live chat. Also we have... oh, thank you, YouTube, for jumping ahead there. I didn't want to jump ahead there. Thank you, YouTube, for doing that. So we have Pedro, we have also Martha, we have SK Limited, we have... oh, why didn't the skeleton go to the party? I think we have a joke here. SK Limited is telling a joke. Why didn't the skeleton go to the party? Now I know the answer to this. Because he had no body to go with. So I do like that joke. Yes, it's a very old joke, but it's very funny. Wi-Fi says hi everybody. Also Norman. Also Murat. Alias. Hello Alias. Also Nadia. French Frog is here. All right, you lot. Ready for Mr. Duncan's 2019 first live stream? I hope you are. Mathilde is here. Hello from Colombia. Bawit Lung is here as well. Mr. Bruno. Oh, I love this. Thank you, Mr. Bruno, for reminding us that there are only 353 days to go until Christmas. Thank you very much for reminding me of that. So this is the last day of Christmas here in the UK. So everybody will be putting their Christmas trees and their Christmas lights away until the end of the year. So thank you, Mr. Bruno. There are only 353 days until Christmas. I feel so much better for knowing that. Suk says Happy New Year from China. A big ni hao to China. I hope your year has been going very well. And of course in China they will be celebrating the Chinese New Year very soon. I think, oh dear, I think this year, I think it's the year of the pig in the Chinese zodiac. I'm sure someone will tell me. I haven't looked yet. I haven't checked. But I think this year it is the year of the pig. I know last year it was the year of the dog. So I think this year, I think it's pig. I think pig follows dog. Louis is here. Hi teachers and classmates. Hi Francesca. Hi to Mohammed. And we also have Garcia. Thank you for joining me, Garcia. It's lovely to see you all. I always get very excited just before the live stream begins. I always get very excited because I don't know who's going to be on. Also, we have Anna Saturino. Hi to Saturino. Ciao, Mr. Duncan. I've just put my Christmas tree. And also, I don't have any New Year's resolutions. I only have hopes. Well, I'm sure you are not the only one. Francesca, oh, what a sad thing. So sad to put away the Christmas tree. I know, but don't worry. It will be back soon because time goes so quickly. Have you noticed? Estanalezo says, today is the Three Wise Men Day in Spain, and it is the day we give presents to each other. So I suppose that is very similar to Christmas, just a little later. Carlos, good morning, Mr. Duncan. Connell, also Palmyra. Mirella, hello, Mr. Duncan, and Merry Christmas Eve I don't think it's Christmas Eve here, but I think in some other countries it is Christmas Eve today, which is very confusing because here in the UK we are putting everything away. But in some countries they are just starting to celebrate Christmas. It's very confusing. I'm confused already. Lamaya is here, also Louis Mendez. Farah is here. I found it a little bit difficult to understand English jokes, like in the TV show Friends, because they have cultural references. This is very true, and this is something we will be talking about later. Certain types of humour don't translate very well into other languages. And I'm not just talking about English, I'm talking about all the other languages that exist. So maybe a joke in Chinese will not translate very well into English, and the other way round as well. So yes, I agree with you, Farah. So yes, sometimes, because of the cultural differences, sometimes a joke might not be funny to other people. Estanislao is here. I didn't get any presents for Christmas, but tomorrow I will get one. So I have a feeling that you are one of the people who are celebrating Christmas later. Gabrielle says, I love jokes, but almost all the time I didn't understand the jokes in English. Well, we will be telling some jokes later on. I have some lovely classic jokes for you later on. So don't worry about it. We will have a look at that later on. So many people today. Yes, understanding jokes in another language is very difficult. I think so. I agree with you, Anna. So lots of people on the live chat. If I haven't said hello to you, I apologise. I'm not ignoring you. For those who are wondering, I'm not ignoring you. Also, we have Keita, Beatrice, and I think that is Lena. I think that is Lena as well. Also, Hafiz and Pedro. I haven't seen Belarusia today, or Tias, or Sukat. So maybe they will be here later on. Maybe they are very busy, because in some countries they are celebrating Christmas right now. They are preparing to have special celebrations and feasts. Even though here in the UK we have finished with Christmas. It is all over. Hafiz, I'm not ignoring you. I never ignore anyone. Do you know about the Chinese language? Yes, I do. I used to live in China. I lived there for over 4 years teaching English. So no, Hafiz, I never ignore anyone. So please, don't worry. I'm not ignoring you. So we're talking about jokes and humour today. Also, another thing we're going to talk about today, in the news this week, did you hear about this? A couple living in Northern Ireland have just won the lottery. One of the big lottery games that you can play here in Europe. And do you know how much they won? Do you know how much money they won? 2 people, a couple. How much money did they win this week? It's incredible. You won't believe how much money they won. We'll be talking about that a little bit later on. Do you play the lottery? Do you ever play the lottery? Also, we'll be talking about predictions. Now, this is something that happens every year. Lots of people try to guess what will happen during the new year. So they try to guess what will happen over the next 12 months. And we call these things predictions. You try to guess what will happen in the future. You make a guess as to what will happen. You make a prediction. You predict what will happen later. And there are lots of people making predictions for this year concerning things going on in the United States, things also going on here in the UK, because in just a few weeks we will be leaving Europe. So the UK will be actually breaking away from the European Union in just a few weeks. So that is one thing a lot of people are speculating about. If you speculate, you try to guess or work out what will happen. You speculate, you guess, you make predictions. Also, we'll be talking about jokes and humour. I will be telling you some jokes, and if you have any jokes that you would like to tell me, feel free to do so. Back to the live chat, and then I will show you something extra special. Ooh, that's very nice. So the live chat is going very busily. Eulena says, my best wishes to you, Mr. Duncan. Thanks a lot. Yes. Estinislao says, the couple from Northern Ireland won 120 million euros, which is around about 115 million pounds. Can you believe that? Imagine for a moment winning that much money. 115 million pounds. That is a lot of money. There are some Hollywood actors who don't have that much money. And this couple living in Northern Ireland, they won it just by choosing a set of numbers. That's it. Amazing. So yes, you are right. Yes, they won a huge amount of money, a lot of money. Thank you also to Polish friend. Hello, Polish friend. Thanks for joining me. Yes, Louis, I had a present from my grandchildren. A flat bike, like that I can do some exercises when the weather is cold. Oh, I see. So do you mean an exercise bike? So a bike that you can sit on in the house and you can ride it like you are riding a bike outside. I think that's a great gift, and I have a feeling that you are trying to get fit in 2019. I have a feeling that is what you are doing. Mr. Bruno, I heard today that only 6% keep their New Year's resolutions. You are right. Very few people keep or stick with their New Year's resolutions. It's true. I think so. So yes, I think you are right. I want to improve my English language so I can get a good job, so I can have my lover for lifetime. Oh, I see. So you are looking for a good job and a good lover. Oh, good luck with that. I will be happy always in my life. And you will be a special person in my life, Mr. Duncan. Thank you very much. That's very kind of you. Thank you, Mohammed Afsal, for that. Francesca says, I got 2 lottery tickets in Italy this evening. And maybe I will be the winner, says Francesca. Well, if you do win some money, if you do win, can you send a little bit my way? Can you send a little bit to me? That would be very nice. And if you want to know how to send it, the address is coming on the screen in a moment. If you would like to send a small or large donation, especially if you've just won the lottery. And can I say thank you very much to some of my lovely viewers who have actually sent some donations. Can I say thank you very much to Tatiana, also Hiroko, Petros and Zenek. Can I say a big thank you for your lovely donations that I've received this week after the new year. So thank you very much. And there is the address now going across the screen. If you'd like to send a donation, you are more than welcome to do so. It only takes a couple of clicks. It's very easy to do. So thank you very much for your donations. I do appreciate it. And because of your donations, I can actually carry on doing this for you. So thank you very much. Back to the live chat, and then I will show you something to get you all excited. Hafiz says, I always forget the vocabulary. It is very difficult. Well, as I always say, you have to try to create an English environment around you. And that's one of the reasons why I do this live stream. I do this to give you a chance to hear English being spoken without any preparation. So everything that happens here is spontaneous. It hasn't been planned. Also, we have Akimu. I would like to speak English fluently. Please help me, Mr. Duncan. Well, there are lots of English lessons on my YouTube channel. And don't forget, you can listen live every Sunday as well. Lena says, frankly speaking, I am crazy about betting and gambling. Do you think it's a kind of bad habit? Well, I think it is. It can be a very big problem. But then again, you can be addicted to anything. You can be addicted to chocolate. You can be addicted to alcohol. You can be addicted to certain types of drugs. And of course, you can be addicted to gambling. So yes, but it's not a good thing. It can destroy your life, especially if you get into debt. Sorry, Mr. Duncan. How are you? How are you? How do you name the day before Christmas? The day before Christmas, Morella, is called Christmas Eve. Christmas Eve. So that is the day before Christmas. Christmas Eve. The best way to learn vocabulary is to read English stories every day. Yes, Lee Harry, try to give yourself an English environment. So listening to English, maybe watching English movies or TV shows, and of course you can go onto YouTube and watch my lovely English lessons. Many of them have subtitles, and of course if you are watching today, some of you will have subtitles during the live stream. Oh, very fancy. So now we're going to take a look at one of my English lessons. And because we are talking about New Year's resolutions today, I thought it would be a good opportunity to show you some excerpts from one of my full lessons, one of my very long lessons. And in this lesson, I'm talking all about health and exercise. Hi everybody, this is Mr. Duncan in England. How are you today? Are you okay? I hope so. Are you happy? I hope so. In today's lesson, we will take a look at two aspects of our lives. One is something we take for granted while it is there, but miss it terribly when it has gone. The other is an activity that we are all encouraged to do, but few of us seem to have the time to carry out. In this lesson, we will take a look at health and exercise. When we talk about our health, we are actually describing two things. First, we refer to our physical health, the way our body is functioning, how well it is working, how all the different parts of your body are functioning. Then we refer to our mental health, how each one of us feels emotionally. If you feel tired after any sudden activity, such as getting up from the sofa and walking a short distance, or feeling out of breath after climbing a few stairs, then there is a good chance that you are out of shape. You are unfit. Your health is poor. There are many words connected to exercise, such as aerobics, exercise that makes the heart beat fast through constant body movement. We call this cardiovascular exercise. Burn. This word is used to express the energy being used up during exercise. Recreation. A general word for any exercise or leisure activity. Keep fit. The act of taking exercise or following a course of exercise routine. There are many simple exercises for keeping fit and healthy. The most popular ones include walking. Yes, just go for a walk. Walk to the end of your street, then around the corner, across the field, up the hill and back down again. Walk in a big circle around the streets and along the roads. Keep on walking until you arrive back home. Oh, you can also jog. Jogging is quicker than walking, but not as fast as running. You can jog to the end of your street, then around the corner, across the field, up the hill, and back down again. Jog in a big circle around the streets and along the roads. Keep on jogging until you arrive back home. Or you can go for a run. 1, 2, 3. Oh dear. Oh, it's okay, I'm just exercising my word power. Please yourself. Believe it or not, it is possible to exercise too much. You can do too much exercise. There are many sporting activities that can give you a vigorous workout and help keep you fit, such as badminton, football, squash, tennis, and volleyball. Another great activity is swimming, which is good for giving you a relaxing all-over body workout as you float in the water, without all that tiring muscle strain. That's better. It's a Sunday, it's a fun day, it's time to improve your English. And of course, yes, we are now 6 days into 2019. How has your year been? How has your year been so far? Has it been a good one or has it been a load of rubbish? I don't know because I'm not there. So here he is, the man that loves to burp and fart and scratch his butt. It's Mr. Steve.
Hello, and thank you for that wonderful introduction, Mr. Duncan.
Did you enjoy it?
I did burp just before we went on live.
Yes. Mr. Steve just burped right into my face.
I didn't. I leant that way.
You didn't?
I did.
You didn't. No, but that's because the camera swaps it round, you see. So you thought you were pointing that way, but in fact you were pointing this way towards me. And I don't know what Mr. Steve has been eating.
I was just drinking some water because my throat was a little dry and I must have taken some air down with it. So I thought I'd better get this air up before we go live. Mr. Duncan.
I've noticed this, though, with you. Sometimes, I tell you what one of Steve's really bad habits, I think this should be one of your resolutions for this year. you always eat too quickly.
That is true.
You want to see Mr. One day I am going to film Mr. Steve eating secretly. I'm going to put a hidden camera and I'm going to film him eating because he eats like a pig.
Well, I just eat quickly. I always have eaten quickly. My parents used to comment that I ate too quickly. And I think it probably, because I think when I come to eat something,
Yeah.
I'm getting worked up, very hungry, and I can't keep it in my mouth. I just want to swallow it down very quickly. And we're talking about jokes later. Don't peek too soon, Mr. Duncan.
Are we still talking about food?
Sounds like a double entendre. But yes, and I can't keep it in my mouth. I've just got to swallow it. And that's just the way it is. I just eat quickly, but it's very bad for your digestion.
I think this might be the best quote. The best quote of today is Mr. Steve saying, I can't keep it in my mouth, I have to swallow it. Food we're talking about still. Definitely.
That's a pun, Mr. Duncan, a pun. But anyway.
Anyway, why'd you keep...
The big thing, Mr. Duncan, is...
The big
the
thing?
huge, massive elephant in the room.
Is it big?
The thing that you haven't talked about yet.
Yes, okay.
What are you wearing? What's happened to the smiley face?
The smiley face has been retired.
What?
Okay, calm down.
Is this one of your New Year resolutions, Mr. Duncan?
I think Steve has been sniffing sellotape again.
Just shocked. I'm shocked to the core.
Okay.
Because I was expecting to come on here and see you with the smiley face which you have been wearing for 13 years,
No.
12 years.
No.
Certainly on all the live streams you have always worn the smiley face.
Most of the live streams I have the smiley face t-shirt, but I've decided to make one or two changes and that is part of the new year.
So you're retiring the smiley face t-shirt. Has it fallen apart because of sweat rot?
Yes, it's getting a little thin under the armpits. So I'm worried that it might start to disintegrate.
So have there been any comments on the live stream about your change of attire?
What?
Your change of attire.
Why do you talk like Jacob Rees-Mogg?
Well, it just means you're wearing different clothes. Yeah. Attire is what you wear.
By the way, no one ever says attire.
They do. They do.
They don't. No one says attire.
If you want to impress people, say, oh, I like your attire.
No, don't say that.
Do say that.
Don't say that because they will punch you in the face.
No,
because
they won't.
They will think, what are you on about? Do you think you're better than me?
Oh, these are sophisticated people. They want to impress their friends, their English teacher.
With your fancy words.
What wonderful attire. Where did you purchase that attire?
I have a feeling you must have been beaten up a lot at school.
No, I wasn't.
Didn't they think you were just a big posh snob?
They thought I was very posh.
Yes.
Because my parents spoke very posh, what we would call posh English.
Yeah. Do you want to go to bed? There you go.
What are you doing? Stop manhandling me, Mr. Duncan.
You keep leaning on the furniture.
Well, I'm relaxed, you know. And I used to speak quite posh. I used to speak really very poshly. If there are recordings of me, I used to have a very plummy posh accent.
You used to speak posh.
No, I've common now because of you.
I've heard a recording on tape of Mr. Steve when he was young, and he sounded like little Lord Fauntleroy.
I make no apologies for my correct grammar and upbringing.
It's not the grammar I'm worried about. It's the accent. You sound like one of the royal family or something. Oh, by the way, the royal family, they think, now we were talking about predictions for the new year. Some people think that this year the Queen will abdicate.
Do they?
Yeah, I was reading this morning on the internet, so it must be true.
Right.
If it's on the internet, it must be true.
Well, she's been reigning. She's the longest-serving reigning monarch, I believe, in history.
Was it 120 years, isn't it?
Long, Mr. Duncan. She's only, what is she, 98? Is she something like that?
98? No.
How old is the Queen?
She's 93.
93. But anyway, going back to what we were talking about,
Yeah, these
I
facts.
digress.
I like the facts that
You digress.
Yeah, those facts, Steve.
And so I spoke with a very posh accent.
Yeah.
And then my parents moved to a new location in the UK. And I went to a school which was in the country. It was a big, big school, but they all had ooh-ah accents. They spoke like that, like they're in the country, you know. They had this broad accent. And when I went there, my posh accent stood out like a sore thumb. There's an expression, stood out like a sore thumb. If you've got a sore thumb and it's sore and red, it stands out. So if you've got an accent that stands out,
Slow down.
then it means that people will notice
Something
your
is
accent.
yes, something is very obvious.
Obvious.
You can say it stands out like a sore thumb.
And so I stood out like a sore thumb because my accent was very posh and everybody else's was a different accent. So I used to get ridiculed a bit about that. They used to call me a snob, posh, Mr. Posh Lord, somebody or other. But because I was funny and humorous with it, I didn't get beaten up. In fact, somebody did try to beat me up once, and I gave as good as I got, and nobody else ever did it after that. So yes, don't get me into a fight because I'm like a ferret. I'm like a terrier.
Yes.
I'll fight. I'll fight to the death.
So it would be fair to say that at school, Mr. Steve sometimes would beat off other students. Is that true?
Mr. Duncan.
What? There's nothing wrong with that. He was
Very rude.
fighting them off. He was.
It's a double entendre.
It
Mr.
isn't.
Duncan.
I don't know what you're talking about.
It is,
Anyway,
we're talking about that later.
Anyway, something I want to talk about right now. A couple in Northern Ireland this week won a lot of money. How much money did they win? This much.
Yes.
Oh my God. Imagine that. Imagine winning that much money. How much is it, Steve?
115 million pounds.
It sounds like a line from Austin Powers. 115 million pounds. Can you imagine that?
Yes.
What would you do, Steve? What was the first thing that you would do besides pooing your pants?
Well, Jeff knows what I would do. I would go down to the local Ford dealership and order a lovely red Ford Mustang V8.
So, can I just point something
the,
out? Okay, I'm talking now, Steve. When I
I
talk,
hadn't finished.
yes. Well, let's put it this way: you have. When Steve talks about the Ford Mustang, we've never mentioned this before, but Steve's dream is to have a Ford Mustang. But the funny thing is that Steve has never tried to drive a Ford Mustang. He's never tested a Ford Mustang. So how do you know you're going to like it? It might be the worst car you've ever driven.
It isn't. It isn't. It's got good write-ups. And anyway, I don't care how it drives. It looks so gorgeous that I just don't care how it drives.
Okay.
So there we go, and the sound and everything. Anyway, we're not talking about the Ford Mustang.
No, we're
150. Interesting, Mr. Duncan. If you had £1 million,
$1 million?
$1 million.
That's nothing.
No,
now.
if you did,
Yeah.
and you wanted to count that,
Okay. Yes.
and you had £1 million coins, any currency, $1 million of anything.
Okay. Is this another one of your staggering facts?
Yes. And you wanted to count. How long would it take you to count £1 million coins, assuming you counted one every second?
So if I had £1 million coins,
£1 million coins.
£1 million coins, and I counted them one by one, how long would it take me to reach 1 million?
Non-stop, one every second.
Yes, we've got that. Okay, is there an answer to this?
11 days.
Oh,
Someone's
okay.
probably already done it on their calculator.
Yes, that doesn't sound like a long time.
11 days non-stop.
Yes.
Well, say you only did it for 12 hours a day, so
Yeah.
that would be 22 days.
Yeah.
That's still a long time. So it's going to take this couple, if they decide to count to count it all, 11 days times 115, which
Okay,
I
oh.
think is about 3 years.
Okay, so if you wanted to count this money one by one, it would take you how long?
About 3 years. Now, last week I got some facts wrong.
You got lots of things wrong last week.
I got it half wrong. So if it takes 11
Oh, no.
days times 150...
I'm sorry, everyone. You can click away now if you want.
100 days, 300.
I'm sure there's something else funny going on YouTube.
3.46 years
Okay.
to count all that money, one every second.
Yeah, it's another Mr. Steve fact. So 115 million. Now, I remember years ago when they started the National Lottery here in the UK, people were winning like £1 million.
Yes.
And it sounded like a lot of money back then. But nowadays, £1 million, it isn't much, is it? When you think about people that are saving for their pension, or maybe they're saving for the retirement years, £1 million actually doesn't go very far.
Well, that's an interesting point you've made there, Mr. Duncan, because if you take inflation into account, when we were born in the 60s,
Okay.
it's about 30%. So that £1 million, £1 million in around the mid 60s,
Okay.
was worth 30 times more. So it was like having 30 million back then
Okay.
because of inflation. So over the years, see, £1 million to us is still it's still that iconic, that big figure that is seen as a huge amount of money. It is a lot of money,
It is a lot.
but it's 30 times less
yes.
in real terms than it was in the 1960s or
Yes.
70s
Okay, but
because of inflation.
So now when people say they have £1 million, it actually isn't very impressive. So that's the reason why. Look, honestly, when I saw the news report the other day, Steve, I literally, not many things make my mouth open wide. Oh, I thought Steve was going to say something then. But this made my jaw drop. When I saw this on the television, a couple from Northern Ireland, they have just won £115 million.
Mr. Duncan, if they're watching, because we saw them being interviewed.
Oh, no.
And they said that they'd got a list of 50 people who they were going to give money to.
Oh, maybe they could put us on the
Well,
list.
that's what I was saying. If you're watching, you know, you're a wonderful couple. Can you add us to your list?
Yes. Do you know their names?
Yeah, they're from Northern Ireland, aren't they?
Okay.
And Mary was one of them. Mary, probably, because they're Catholic, I would imagine.
Steve, please don't do an Irish accent.
Divided by 50. So if they were to divide that out by 50 people, that's 2.3 million each.
Okay.
Now, I'm imagining they're going to keep most of it themselves, so they'll probably keep, say, 50 million.
What are you doing?
Divide that by 50.
This is the most boring thing, by the way.
They're going to be giving about £1 million away to 50 people, I think.
Okay. So if you're watching the Connellys, by the way, see, I took the time to make a note of their name, the Connellys. So if the Connellys in Northern Ireland, and apparently already the husband, he has a Twitter account, and already people are sending him messages.
I'm not surprised.
Begging for money.
Of course.
So, but we're not begging. We're not begging. It seems like we're begging, but we're not. We are asking you just to make a small donation from your large pile of money. Look at that. Look at all those zeros. Look, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 zeros. That's a lot. And then you add the other 3 figures. It's 9. That's 9 figures. That's a lot of money. So, Steve, I'm going to smash that calculator to pieces in a minute. There's nothing more.
Guess how many Ford Mustangs I can buy with £115 million?
Okay, how many Ford Mustangs can you buy for £115 million?
2,300.
You could own You could own 2,300 Ford Mustangs.
Which is just about how many they sell in the UK every year.
And what's bizarre is Steve has never driven one, so he doesn't even know if he'll like it.
I will love it.
It might be the worst car ever made.
No, it's not.
Because you are very fussy with your cars.
Once I hear that engine note, That's all I need.
We were talking about New Year's resolutions. Here are some of mine, by the way, that I made last week. Do you remember? So lose weight, swear less, don't waste time,
Yes.
and walk
it's on
more. And walk more. So first of all, lose weight. I'm trying my best to lose weight. I'm still doing it now. Swear less. Well, sadly,
You should ask me to comment on those.
I have already broken that one because I do tend to swear. Sometimes I say naughty words, don't I, Steve?
But have you sworn less?
No.
That's the key.
No.
Oh, okay.
So we can forget that one because I do often swear, as everyone does, especially when you get very frustrated and angry. Also, don't waste time. I am trying to use my time more efficiently. So that's a good one. I'm still sticking to that. And also, walk more. And this is something I am doing.
You are doing that, and that will help the losing weight one.
Yes. So I'm now having daily walks twice a day.
You are?
So I go for a walk, 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes in the afternoon. So 40 minutes every day, I am now having a lovely walk.
Do you know what I think you should? I think you should, in the morning, say tomorrow, you walk out of the house and you just keep walking and you keep walking and you keep walking.
What?
And you don't come back.
Till I get to the until I get to the coast, until I reach the edge of a cliff and then fall off. That's not very nice.
I'm joking. I'm joking because today is all about jokes and humour.
Yes. And we are talking about jokes and humour. Shall we have a look at the live chat before
Yes.
we haven't looked at the live chat very much. So let's have a look right now. Yes, Mr. Steve is here. Let's have a quick look. Let's see what people are saying about Mr. Steve. Is any of it good?
Right.
Oh, Mr. Duncan looks a bit like Freddy Krueger. Oh, you're right. Yes, this does. This does look, you know Freddy Krueger.
The horror film.
Yes, from
person.
the movies.
Okay, so was he axing people to death? Was he sawing them to death with a chainsaw? What did he do?
Freddy Krueger used to kill people in their dreams.
Oh, how horrible!
Yes, so they would dream about things and he would be there and he would murder them and they would die for real. So Nightmare on Elm Street. They made many, many sequels to the original film. So yes, you are right. It does look a bit like Freddy Krueger.
Maybe you need to find a new form of attire.
If you say that word again, I am going to punch you in the face. You know that, don't you?
He wouldn't do that.
What was that then? What was that sound then?
That was just me flapping my clothes.
Okay then. It wasn't a fart. I'm watching you from Bangladesh. Hello, Mehdi. Nice to see you here today. We also have... Oh, yes.
People are criticising me for saying often.
Oh, I see, yes. Oh, we're not going to talk about that again. Every week someone says, Mr. Steve says often.
You can say that.
You can say often.
It's a posh way of saying that.
Yes. Yes. Let's move on. We've got a lot to do. I'm watching from Bangladesh. Hello to you. Abdicate. Gatsu. Oh, yes. Abdicate. Now, that's an interesting word.
Yes.
I mentioned earlier that there are rumours, because people are trying to make predictions for this year, and there are rumours that maybe the Queen of England will step down. She will abdicate. She will stop being the Queen. And then it would appear that Prince Charles would then be the King of England. So instead of Queen Elizabeth, it will be King Charles, like the dog.
That'll be a big distraction away from Brexit.
Oh, yes. Well, we're leaving Europe in about 6 weeks.
We are.
Can you believe it? In about 6 weeks' time, we're leaving Europe forever. If it happens, of course. So yes.
Give up. Abdicate. Give up something.
Yes, if you abdicate, it means you give up, normally referring to a throne or a position of power. So when you step down from a position of power, you abdicate.
Yes.
Abdicate. It's a great word, actually, and we might be hearing a lot of that word this year.
Isn't Prince Charles too young, says Anna. He's about 70, isn't he?
Prince Charles has just celebrated his 70th birthday.
Yes, perhaps that's sarcasm.
Yeah, maybe
Sarcasm.
maybe Anna is using a certain type of humour
Yes,
called sarcasm.
yes.
So humour can be various things, and sarcasm, you are being sarcastic. You are saying something that sounds genuine, but in fact you are being ironic.
Mocking.
Yes, you are mocking the person, you are making fun of them. So you are being ironic in what you say. I really want to speak English. Do you want friends to speak English in your daily life? Well, that's the hardest thing about learning English, is how to actually use it, how to actually... I wish you... I'm trying to talk in a sensible way, and you're playing with things. Stop playing with things. Didn't your mother warn you?
dear.
Didn't your mother warn you about playing with things?
I like fiddling.
Yes. Oh my goodness, there are so many replies to that. So yes, if you want to speak English, the best way to do it is to listen to it, use it, and practice every day. Try to make it a part of your life. Bella is... Oh, hello, Bella. Nice to see you here. What will you do if you win that much?
What would you do, Mr. Duncan?
Ah, well, of course. A lot of the money would be spent on doing this. I would buy my own studio, and I would have lots of different teachers working for me. Maybe teachers who were having difficulty finding a job. Maybe they were having trouble finding work. So I would love to... I would give a lot of my money away. I'll be honest with you. Mr. Steve knows this. I'm not a big money person. I don't desire money all the time. So
You are the least materialistic person I have ever met.
yes, I'm not a person who wants fancy things like
No.
gold and jewellery. I'm not interested in
Cars, you're not interested in
those. No,
cars.
I have no interest in those things whatsoever.
Anything. You're not really interested in material things. You wear clothes purely as a function, really.
Yeah, Bella's just asked the same thing. If you had a big sum, Mr. Duncan, would you stop the live lessons? Would you stop your lessons? No, I would do it more. I would do it more. I would have a more sophisticated studio. And this is it. Most of what I earn, most of my money, most of the things that come my way, I put back into this.
Yeah, because you don't do this for money. You
No.
do it because you love doing it.
Yes, I do this because I love doing it. That's my first love. So it's not about earning money and becoming a millionaire. It's about helping you watching out there. So that's the reason why I do it.
It is. That's why you've been doing it for 12 years.
Over 12 years. 2019 is my 13th year.
You certainly can't say you do this for money.
Connell is right. Yes, well done, Connell. Speaking English fluently is a matter of self-confidence. I think so. That's where everything starts.
And practice.
Yes. So you have to have the confidence to do it, motivation. Don't do it too much because you might get bored or you might find it too difficult. So take it easy. Learn English every day. Try to make it a part of your life. Thank you, Pedro, for your comment. Rungsak. Rungsak is 1 hour late. Don't worry. I forgive you.
Marianne is from Poland. I don't know if we've seen Marianne before.
Okay.
But and also we've got Alex from Vietnam. I don't recognise that name.
Alex Salomon, watching in
So
Vietnam.
maybe we've got 2 new people watching.
Yes, I think we have more than 2.
Yes.
More than 2 new people, I hope. Hafiz, do you agree that accent is necessary in speaking? Well, as I often say, there is only one English language, but there are many accents. So there are no right accents. Everyone has an accent. I have one, Steve has one, and quite likely you have one as well.
But it's fine as long as we can understand you and as long as other people can understand you.
Yeah.
The accent doesn't matter.
Yes, that's what it's all about. As long as people can understand what you are saying, that's it. King says, how many years have you been friends with Mr. Steve? Well, next year, this year, because now we are into 2019, this year we will have known each other for 30 years. 30, not 13, 30.
You don't get sent to prison for murder for that long, Mr. Duncan.
No. Thank goodness. Hi, everyone. Hi, Mr. Duncan. It seems to me that you are a very enthusiastic person. Thank you, Valentine. That is very kind of you. Yes, you are right. I love English. I love teaching English. And I love sharing my experience of the English language with you every Sunday. Just in case you are wondering, every Sunday we are here live from 2 o'clock. Rungsack is going to bed, I think. I'm going to watch this live stream again in the morning. So maybe it's very late where Rungsack is. I think so.
Which, of course, you can do with your live lessons. You can watch them all again, and they'll have lovely subtitles.
Yes. And later on, yes, you can watch the live stream later, and eventually YouTube will put subtitles on here. So that's very nice as well. We're going to have a little break, and then we're talking all about jokes and humour. We'll be sharing some jokes with you. Also, maybe if you have a joke you want to tell us. Also, words and expressions to do with having a sense of humour. But here it is. Here is an excerpt from one of my English lessons where I talk all about jokes and humour.
Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Crazy Mr. Duncan.
Hi. Good evening. Wow, so many people. A man goes to see his doctor. He says, "Doctor, doctor, I feel like a pair of curtains." And the doctor replies, "Oh, pull yourself together." Do you like shopping? Do you? How come whenever I go to the supermarket, I always end up with the shopping trolley that has the bad wheel? I want to go this way, and my shopping trolley wants to go this way. Yeah? It's funny. It's funny, isn't it? Because it's true. A man goes to see his doctor. He says, "Doctor, doctor, people keep ignoring me." And the doctor replies, "Next, please." Okay, you've been a great audience. Thank you very much. Good night. If a person stands on a stage and tells their jokes to an audience, it is called stand-up comedy, because the person telling the jokes is standing up. Of course, it is true to say that a joke which may be funny to one person could actually be offensive or not funny to another. Each one of us has a slightly different feeling when we hear a joke. It is called our sense of humour. Some people will laugh at anything, while others will hardly ever laugh at all. It is yet another fascinating piece of the human emotion puzzle. Do you have a sense of humour? What makes you laugh? Do you know any good jokes?
And that is what we are talking about today, jokes and humour. Do, Happy New Year. Everything will be fine in 21-9. That's my new catchphrase. Do you like it? Yes, it is Sunday. It's a fun day. It's time to improve your English with Mr. Steve and me, Freddy Krueger. Arr, arr,
Don't go to sleep. He may appear in your dreams.
That might be the wrong time to warn people about falling asleep. I wonder how many people are sleeping now.
Hopefully not during our live show.
Maybe some people use this to help them go to sleep. Maybe they put it next to their pillow.
That's what Rucksack's going to do.
I think that's what a lot of people do. They use it for sleep therapy. By the way, if you want to get in touch, a lot of people have asked, Mr. Duncan, can we have your details? How can we follow you on Facebook and how can we write to you? So very quickly, here is my email address and also my Facebook address. I don't know what that was then, but Mr. Steve pulled the most amazing face then. What was? Can you do that again? what was that?
My face felt all tight. I was trying to sort of stretch it a bit.
That actually scared me. Genuinely, I was a little scared there. I looked in the monitor and I saw Steve. So what we're talking about today, Steve?
Humour.
Humour.
Interestingly enough.
So types of humour. When we say humour, of course, we mean things that are amusing, things that make people go.
Things that make you laugh. And it's spelt differently, Mr. Duncan, in the UK, in England, in British English compared to American English.
Yeah.
As you can see there. O-U-R for British English and just O-R for American English.
So yes, just to make sure we're clear. So humour, this is British English and that is American English, for those who are wondering.
And it's been proved that being able to laugh at things, being able to laugh at yourself is very, very good for your health. And it's good for your psychological well-being. And apparently you live longer if you can laugh at things and see the funny side of things.
I laugh at myself every day when I look in the mirror.
You're not the only one. We're all laughing, Mr. Duncan. Humour, of course, depends a lot on personal taste, depends on your upbringing, it depends on your culture, where you come from, all sorts of things like that, education, maturity. Depends on a lot of factors, which is why humour in some countries doesn't translate very well to other countries.
That's true.
Because different cultures experience humour in different ways or express it in different ways. British humour, which we'll talk about, is based or comes a lot from the fact that we've been a stable society for a long time.
Yes.
And as a result of that, a lot of our humour, British English, is directed at taking the mickey out of everyday life and institutions and things like that.
A lot of people think that British humour is, I want to use the word broad. So broad humour. You might describe British humour as being very broad. And this means that we can find most things funny. So virtually everything that exists in life, British humour can actually make fun of it. Going to the toilet. Wow, that is really, really a big part of British humour. We like things that involve things that are slightly embarrassing or awkward. So going to the toilet, bodily functions, sex.
Sexual taboos.
Also, things that might be distasteful. So maybe if a person falls over, maybe if they slip and fall over, we will find that very funny. That's very funny to us. We think that's hilarious. And also dirty jokes, things that are a little rude or maybe suggestive. You mentioned the word double entendre.
I did.
So double entendre relates to a joke or a word that has maybe more than one meaning, but it has a nice meaning, but also a rude meaning, maybe something that's a little dirty. So like Steve earlier said, he he likes to put something in his mouth, but sometimes he doesn't like to swallow. Now that can just mean eating food, but it can mean other things as well. British humour.
I might say, oh, Mr. Duncan, that's a big one you've got there.
Oh, do you like that? Do you like that? It's very big, isn't it?
Oh, I really need to get my hand around that.
Yes, hold on to it then, both hands.
Both hands, yes. Go on then.
Isn't that amazing? Do you like it?
Yeah, I do.
Yes.
It's
What
a
is it?
fabulous marker pen, Mr. Duncan.
Yes, see, that's it. So did you see what happened then? So we were talking about something down there, and it would appear that we were talking about something maybe a little rude.
Your penis. But we weren't. We were being funny. We were using a double entendre.
So a double entendre, something that is very suggestive.
Has two meanings.
But it has an innocent meaning and also a rude meaning. It might be something else. So a lot of British humour is based on words that have more than one meaning. Maybe a nice meaning, a happy meaning, or a clean meaning, but also something that's a little bit suggestive and naughty.
Yes, and we take the mickey out of institutions
You keep
like the
saying
royal family.
You keep saying take the mickey.
Take the mickey, make fun of,
Yes.
make jokes about. Because we've got a lot of institutions that have been around for a long time, like the royal family, houses of parliament, certain companies. Then these institutions tend to get mocked because they've got strange practices, or
Yes.
maybe they're using practices that go back hundreds of years,
Yes.
and we can make fun of them.
Yes.
And satire.
Yes. So we'll look at these later
Okay.
on. We're jumping ahead slightly. Let's have a look at some basic jokes. So we're going to have a look at some basic...
A joke.
So a joke.
A joke.
It is a humorous story or a story with a humorous ending.
Punchline.
So something that makes a person go...
So it's a type of humour that usually has a short narrative, a short story
Okay.
that leads to a punchline, and it's funny.
Yes, so the ending is the climax is amusing. So let's have a look at some jokes. Here are some that I wrote down earlier. They are... We might think they are terrible jokes, but someone else might think they are amazing.
They might do.
So here they are now on the screen. I'm going to put them on right now. First, what do you call a man with a shovel on his head? Doug.
Okay.
Now, why is that funny, Steve?
Because Doug is short for a man's name, Douglas. And if you dig something, you use a shovel. If you're digging in the garden,
A shovel or spade.
or a spade. So and Doug is probably the past tense of shoveling. So it's it's a pun.
Dig. So dig is the present tense. Dug is the past tense.
That's
so
it.
you are actually connecting the word shovel or spade with the action of digging. And the past tense of dig is dug.
But it wouldn't be spelt like that. But it sounds the same.
Yes, it's a homophone.
Pardon?
It's two words that sound
How
the same.
dare you accuse me of? Oh, right.
What? Yes.
Okay, Mr.
And
Duncan.
there is Steve with a classic example of not a joke. What do you call a man with a seagull on his head? A seagull is a type of bird that normally lives on the coast. What do you call a man with a seagull on his head? You call him Cliff. Because cliff, of course, is an area that stops, an area of land that stops and drops down to the sea. A high edge.
Yes.
And
Where
of course, Cliff is also a man's name.
Did you make these jokes up yourself, Mr. Duncan?
I didn't make these up. These are very old jokes.
Really?
These are not new jokes. These are old ones. What do you call a woman with two toilets on her head? Lulu. So
Because Lulu is a girl's name,
Yes.
and Lou is an abbreviated or word for toilet.
It's not abbreviated.
Abbreviated, so a slang word for toilet.
Yes.
Lou, spelled L-O-O,
That's it.
but it sounds the same as L-U.
That's it.
So you've put two Lulus. Oh, I can't believe I'm having to explain this.
2 toilets.
2 toilets, so it would be Lulu.
That's it. So that's why it's funny, you see. What do you call a woman with 2 toilets on her head? Lulu. So 2 toilets. What do you call a man with a paper bag on his head? This is my favourite, by the way. What do you call a man with a paper bag on his head? You call him Russell.
These are all examples of puns, aren't they?
So this is, it's a joke.
Yes, it's a joke.
A pun is just another word for joke.
Well, yes, it means where you're playing on the words.
That's it, yes.
That sound the same or have the same meaning.
Yes. So the humour comes from the fact that the word can be used in more than one way. What do you call a man with a paper bag on his head? Of course, the sound of paper is rustle, but it's spelt differently.
Yes.
But in this case, it refers to a man's name. So the joke, once again, refers to the double meaning of the word or the sound of the word, because once again, it's a homophone.
Pardon? Oh, right, yes. Sorry.
Yes, that was old the first time, by the way, you did it. So I hope you enjoyed that. So there.
That was sarcasm.
So that was an example of jokes. So they are very simple jokes, but it gives you an idea of why certain jokes are funny. It's because we can relate to something else through the joke. And there are many different types of jokes. There are jokes that you say, and of course, jokes that you do. So you can have a joke that you hear or listen to, and also a joke that you see. Visual. So something that is visual. And of course there is...
Mr. Duncan, I've got a joke for you.
Oh, Steve has thought of a joke, everyone.
What kind of maths do owls like?
What kind of maths or mathematics do owls like?
Or math, if you were in America. What kind of math do owls like?
I don't know.
Algebra. It's the way I tell them.
Algebra.
Algebra.
Yes. But you've already said owls.
Algebra.
Yes. Okay.
Well, it's a funny joke. Why did the kangaroo stop drinking coffee?
Oh, I see. He's reading these.
Of course I am.
I thought you were making these up. I was getting very impressed there. I thought Steve was making them up. He's got them written down. He's written them down. You.
Well, okay. Why did the
Cheat.
kangaroo stop drinking coffee?
Why did the kangaroo stop drinking coffee?
Yes. Because it got too jumpy. That's a deadpan face. A deadpan face.
Yes, we'll be looking at expressions a little bit later on because Steve is an actor, of course, as you know, in life. He acts like a human.
Waiter, there's a fly in my soup. Don't shout it too loud or everyone will want one. That's an old joke.
Actually, no, the better one is, waiter, what is this fly doing in my soup? And the waiter replies, the breaststroke. You see, that's funny. Not sure about yours.
You're being very unkind to me, Mr. Duncan.
I'm just being
very
honest.
Unkind.
Honest.
Anyway, that's all I've got.
Apparently, honesty is the best policy. So there are lots of jokes. Of course, there are doctor jokes. Doctor, doctor, I feel like a pair of curtains. Oh, pull yourself together. The live chat is busy.
It is. Oh, Pedro's laughing to be polite.
Yes, some people do that. They might not think the joke is funny, but they might just laugh anyway to find the joke funny, but they don't really. So they just be polite and pretend to laugh.
See, the examples that we've just given are very simple. The sort of jokes that you would find in a Christmas cracker. They're very basic sort of jokes.
Yes.
Because, we're not particularly intelligent, so we're not going to come up with really clever jokes.
Yes.
But yes.
Oh, by the way, a lot of people are celebrating Christmas tomorrow.
Why?
Because they have a different calendar to us. So their Christmas arrives slightly later, 12 days later. So Merry Christmas to all those celebrating Christmas tomorrow. And that includes Lena, who are, and also many other people who are preparing right now for Christmas Day.
Wow.
Isn't that strange?
12 days, our Christmas is finished because today's the 12th, well, it's the 12th night, isn't it?
That's at 12th night. So traditionally, we always take the Christmas tree and the decorations down on 12th night.
5th of December, so it's 12 nights.
6th.
Well, it depends on which interpretation you go for. But,
Okay, anyway. Ooh.
but yes, so that's interesting. Well, I was reading this today. What is 12th night about? Or the 12 days after Christmas.
Okay.
That's apparently biblically, Bible history.
Okay.
It's when the 3 wise men came to visit the baby Jesus.
Okie dokie.
So the Christmas starting wherever Lena is based on that. So that's fascinating.
So maybe that 12 days after relates to people who celebrate Christmas later.
Yes.
Okie dokie. Do jokes have to be intelligent? Yes, they can be. Of course, there are certain types of jokes that only certain people will get or understand.
Mr. Duncan.
So you might say that a certain joke is only funny to certain people. So maybe in a certain situation. So you are making a joke about a certain thing. Steve is getting very excited. I don't know what at.
Because I've already prepared something on a piece of paper that relates to what you've just been saying. An in-joke.
Ah.
An in-joke, which is a joke that's really only available or only appreciated by a small group of people.
Yes.
So it might be in a workplace. An in-joke, it might be something about a particular person at work.
You might describe it as esoteric.
Well, it's an in-joke. It's something
Yeah.
that only a small group of people understand. So if you come into that group of people and they're laughing about something, they could be laughing at your expense.
Yes.
For example, that you might start in a new place of work.
Okay.
And somebody might say to you, "Oh, why don't you go and sit there? Go and sit in that chair over there. That's where you can go and sit." And they're all laughing away because they know it's actually somebody else's chair, and they're very possessive of that chair. And everybody knows it's a bit of a joke because they always laugh at that person because they always have to sit in that particular spot. So they tell you to go and sit over there, and then they want to watch his reaction.
Yeah. So it's
Like an in-joke.
an inside joke.
Inside joke, just for a small group of people.
So it's a joke that only a few people will understand. Esoteric as well, you can use.
Okay.
Something is esoteric. So yes, so only a certain group of people will understand what that joke refers to. That's very good. I like that. So there are lots of different types of jokes. There are things that are maybe funny in a certain way. We can make fun of politics. We can make fun of individuals. And we can also make fun of things that may seem serious as well. And there are some TV programs that I love. So we do like watching TV, don't we?
We like watching comedy.
And we do like watching things that are funny. And here's one of our favourite TV shows, Family Guy. And the reason why we like it is because quite often they take serious subjects and they make fun of that subject, or they make fun of something that you maybe in normal life you couldn't get away with.
Like death.
Death or sex or marriage or disability. Quite often Family Guy will make fun of disabled people.
And we call that dark humour, don't we?
Yes.
Dark humour, where you're making fun or making humour or comedy out of subjects which are not normally spoken about. Actually, you brought up an interesting thing there, talking about cartoon comedy, because you can quite often get away with or risky comedy or comedy that would be seen as being maybe taboo in certain areas. But if you put it into a cartoon, I don't know whether there are different laws applying to cartoons, but you could not tell the jokes that we often see in cartoons and have them acted out by people on a stage, because or in a television comedy series.
That's it.
Because they would just be breaching all sorts of laws.
Yes, well, I can help you there. It is true. Animation or cartoons are not really covered by the same laws as something that is done for real. So, for example, if I went up to someone in the street and I made a joke about punching them in the face, well, I would probably be in trouble very quickly. But in a cartoon or in an animated cartoon, if one of the characters punches the other one in the face, it doesn't matter. It's funny because it's a cartoon. So there are no serious, real consequences. So that's the reason why. So that's why the law seems to be more open for interpretation. Another show that does that is, of course, South Park. Another one of my favourite TV shows, South Park, is another one, a cartoon show, that gets away with lots of things because of the type of humour that they use. And because it's a cartoon, they can actually get away with it. They can use it. They can do it without any serious consequences. Although, having said that, there was one occasion where the makers of South Park had to withdraw one of the episodes for certain reasons. Yes. So we like all sorts of funny things, don't we?
We particularly like American humour.
Well, British humour as well.
Oh yes, British humour. Yes, we love all types of humour.
Yes. So sometimes if it's a little bit rude, we like it. Sometimes if it's a little offensive, we like it. So sometimes humour is funny even if you don't necessarily find it funny straight away. So there is a type of humour which is embarrassing humour, where a person does something that is socially unacceptable, but still it is funny because of that fact. And one of the great purveyors of that is Ricky Gervais. So he uses embarrassing situations, awkward moments for humour. So things that you wouldn't normally say or do are used to generate slight discomfort, embarrassment, and for some reason it's still funny.
It is. Yes. He's very good at that.
So that's it. There are many different types. Another show that we used to watch a lot, Steve, many years ago, Seinfeld. So this is seen as one of the best comedy shows ever in the history of television. So Seinfeld is a TV show that ran between the late 1980s and late 1990s. It ran for 9 seasons and it starred these people, the 4 main characters, and it dealt with general moments of life, general things that happen in life. In fact, Jerry Seinfeld, the star, said famously that the show is about nothing. So nothing in the show is important.
It's just finding humour in everyday life.
Everyday situations. So that's our type of humour, isn't it?
And that, of course, is a classic example of a sitcom, a situation comedy, where the same actors are playing the same roles week after week, and it's about their home, their work. So it's different to a sketch show where the actors would be playing different roles and in different situations. It's a sitcom. It's very popular, particularly in American humour. We have a lot of sitcoms. Quite often, I mean, Seinfeld is probably one of the, if not the most popular worldwide comedy show, but in England it's not that well appreciated.
No, I think it would be fair to say that this particular show isn't as big or as popular, even though it was shown on television here and repeated many times. But we like it anyway. We like that show.
It's got a bit of a cult following.
Situation comedy is comedy or humour based on everyday situations, hence the name. Another show that I want to mention, and it's one that's finishing this year, and it is a programme that I have lots of opinions about.
Okay.
The Big Bang Theory. Now, as you know, I have some very strong opinions about this programme.
He does.
Now, as far as I'm concerned, and this is something that always annoys people when I say it, but as far as I'm concerned, there are only 4 seasons of Big Bang Theory. Not 12, 4. And as far as I'm concerned, and that's just my opinion, after season 4, The Big Bang Theory became really, really awful and unwatchable because they lost the point of the show. They changed the program to get a wider audience.
Because it had a cult following before,
Yes.
didn't it? So
Yeah.
it was only seen
Well,
by certain groups of people.
Yes. Well, I don't think it had a cult following, but it was
I think it was.
it was popular, but there were people that were complaining about the show itself. And they were complaining that there weren't enough female characters or characters that appealed to more people. And that's what happened. So they changed the show dramatically after season 4. And as far as I'm concerned, it wasn't as good. The point of this program was that we were looking at the lives of people who were socially awkward. They didn't fit in. That was the joke. That was the humour. That's where it all came from. There were geeks. There were nerds. There were scientists. But sadly, they changed it all. Suddenly they all had girlfriends, and then they started getting married, and the science disappeared, and the jokes became worse and worse. And eventually it became a comedy program about people in relationships. And of course, that's been done so many times before. So that's the reason why I only watch the first 4 seasons of The Big Bang Theory.
It's a classic example when you've come off your soapbox, Mr. Duncan. Don't get him talking about, is it The Big Bang Theory or just Big Bang Theory?
It's The Big Bang Theory.
Okay.
Not to be confused with the pop group from Korea called Big Bang. Ah, look at that. See, I know things. Ooh.
I've forgotten what I was going to say then,
Good.
Mr. Duncan.
That's
I've
saved-
totally forgotten what I was going to say.
That saves us a lot of time.
What were you talking about just before?
Well, this. I'm talking about this, The Big Bang
yes.
Theory.
Yes, you got very upset about it, Mr. Duncan. But anyway, things change, and they were being paid like £1 million an episode.
Yeah, eventually, yes. If you remember, they threatened not to do another season unless they all had a pay rise. So yes, and again, it's something that made the show not as good because
I know what I was going to say.
Oh, okay.
It's a classic example of the widespread use of sarcasm in American humour, which we love. But literally, every line is sarcastic. One person can make a comment to another person. It's sarcasm. Then they say a sarcastic comment back, and it just goes backwards and forwards. It's just one long script of sarcasm,
Yes.
which is very common in American
Yes.
humour.
But what I'm talking about is the actual sort of premise, the plot. You've got 4 people who are socially awkward.
Yes, Mr.
They are
Duncan,
scientists,
yes.
they are geeks, they don't really fit into society. So all of the things we expect them to do, they don't do. Then suddenly, they're dating, they're having girlfriends.
Yeah, we get it, Mr.
they're all
Duncan.
doing-
You like the first 4 seasons, and then you went off it.
So it's-
let's just stop banging on about it.
I even wrote. Did you see my essay on Amazon?
Oh.
There is actually. I felt so strongly about this, Steve. I actually wrote an essay, and I put it on one of the DVDs on Amazon. So you can write reviews on Amazon. So you can leave a review, and I wrote this essay on how the Big Bang Theory was ruined after season 4. It's still on there now.
Lots of people think that, though, don't they?
Do they?
But yes, they do.
So how come it's the number one show in the United States?
Well, because as I said before, it was had a cult following, so a
Yes.
small group of people were following it, found it funny,
Yes.
and then they broadened its horizons. They introduced new characters, because if they'd not done that, the show would have been cancelled. Because it probably wasn't making enough money, because it wasn't being watched by enough people. So they added new characters and broadened it into really, as you say, a comedy about relationships. It turned
Yes.
into a sort of a traditional
yeah,
sitcom.
just a cliche. So it's boys and girls together trying to sort their relationship out. Very boring. Everyone's done that. Whereas the early episodes was something fresh and new, something that hadn't been done before.
Lots of people watch The Big Bang Theory. Friends, of course, was another popular series. But if you watch Friends now,
Yeah.
we think it's aged very badly.
It's dated.
Its style of humour
Yeah.
and the things that they joke about.
Yeah.
And this often happens with humour.
Yes.
And that things that you could joke about 5 or 10 years ago have now become socially unacceptable
Yes.
to talk about or to make fun of.
Yes.
Like specific groups of people. Like British humour used to mock different ethnic groups quite
Yes.
a lot
In the
70s.
Yes, in the 70s we called gay people puffs and
Well,
queers.
We used to, yes, but comedy would make fun of races.
Yes, that's what I've just said that.
Social stereotypes, but you can't do that now. In fact, comedians complain now that there's a vastly reduced number of subjects that they can actually joke about and
Yeah,
not
do they?
be and not get into problems on Twitter where everyone's outraged by everything that they say.
So what's all this?
I'm just expressing myself, Mr. Duncan.
What was
That's
this?
all.
What was this then?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Just expressing myself, Mr. Duncan.
I'm ever so humble.
So yes, so quite
know.
often you've got to be careful what you joke about now, and particularly comedians. It must be very difficult for them because the slightest thing they say that upsets one group of people turns into a Twitter storm, and then suddenly their career is ruined.
I'm going to tell you something now that's going to blow your mind.
Go on.
You're wrong about all of that. All of it.
Well, that's not what I heard when seeing a comedian being interviewed a few weeks ago.
Okay, well, that's it then. Well, the whole world is wrong then if that comedian said one thing. But the thing is, and this is the problem now, and I'm going to say it very quickly, humour is subjective.
Yes, that's not what I'm not saying it's
No,
wrong.
wait,
I'm saying that some comedians are finding it difficult. I'm not
Yes.
trying to justify whether
Yes,
it's right or
I'm
wrong.
trying to actually make a point.
I know, but you suddenly said
Yeah.
you're wrong.
Yes.
So I've got to justify what
Yes.
I was saying, Mr. Duncan.
Yes, well, I'm just justifying what I said about you being wrong. It's subjective, but also don't forget we live in a very strange age where anger and outrage is used as a publicity tool. So if you say something nowadays that offends lots of people, it might only offend 10 or 20% of the population, but the rest of the population wants to find out more about it. They think it's hilarious. And so it's a very good way nowadays of generating publicity. This week, a comedian who is making a comeback after a sexual scandal, Louis C.K., famously did a stand-up routine where he was making jokes about school shootings. And immediately, everyone was talking about it and they were sharing his comedy routine.
Yes, I see what you're saying.
And that's it. So the outrage can actually become the publicity for that very thing. So
yes, but if they go too far,
I don't
then
think
they're going to, where it can end careers.
No, I don't think so.
I saw an interview with comedians, and they've said that they
Yes.
find it very difficult to stand up and make jokes about certain
Yes,
subjects now
but-
because they get into trouble. That's
Yes.
the point I'm making, Mr. Duncan.
it depends on the venue. It depends where
Well, yeah,
they
of course
are.
it does. Yes, of course it does.
Now there are two comedians. I'm going to mention them now. There is a comedian who is, I think, is Scottish, Frankie Boyle. He says things that are so disgusting and outrageous on television. He was on the BBC last week saying things that were so outrageous, making jokes about dead people. He made a joke about Aretha Franklin. And everyone's laughing in the audience. The BBC wasn't closed down. Everyone had a good laugh. So you can see that it doesn't matter. There is another comedian called Doug Stanhope, and he says things that are really way, way off the scale of outrageous. Yet he has a huge fan base, and he says things that are so rude, things that I can't say. So I couldn't say some of the things that he says, and there are videos and there are clips on YouTube. So right on here, if you put Doug Stanhope, search on YouTube, you will see some of the most outrageous things ever said by a person. And yet no one is going after him. He tours the world and he sells out. He goes to all of these venues and thousands of people go to see him.
Well, that's different. If you're on television, it's one thing. You've got to abide by the rules of etiquette.
But you don't.
If you're doing a live show, you might be able to get away with more.
Yes, but I just said that on the BBC, a broadcaster, a respected broadcaster, there was a comedian saying very outrageous things, things that if I said it now, I would get taken off YouTube. YouTube would close me down. And yet this comedian that I'm talking about, Frankie Boyle, said these things on the BBC during one of his programmes. So you see what I mean? So why wasn't the BBC closed down? Maybe they received some complaints, but most people that watched it, they enjoyed it. They thought it was hilarious, and that's the problem. So that's my point, you see, about humour being subjective. So if you are oversensitive or you want to make a point about something, you might be outraged by a comedian or what they say. But also there is a large fan base. There are many people that find this person hilarious and funny. So some people might hate them for that, but you might find that they still have a lot of people that enjoy what they do.
Fine.
So what do you think?
Well, I've already made my opinion, Mr. Duncan.
That's just my point of view.
I saw an interview with a comedian, and he said he found it very difficult to make comments about certain subjects anymore.
Yes.
And it was ruining his style of humour.
That's it. But again,
I think it depends on who you are,
yes,
and what you can get away with.
Yes.
Different people, different rules seem to apply to different people.
Yes, a lot of comedians have had trouble with appearing at universities. So they used to do small shows at universities, but now the university system is very, very, some might say left-wing or liberal, so they try to protect everyone. So many comedians now can't perform at certain universities.
A lot of people are referencing comedians, British comedians, which we wouldn't think would be that well known abroad, like Fry and Laurie, Russell. I think when you say Russell Howard, I think Russell Howard.
Yes, he's a comedian.
He's a comedian. Yes.
I don't like him myself.
But yes, so yeah, it's interesting to see which bits of British humour actually do go abroad.
Classic British humour, Monty Python.
Which I've never liked.
See, Steve doesn't like Monty Python, but I think it's hilarious.
Some of it is.
I wish to register a complaint about this parrot. Okay, what's the problem? I'll tell you what the problem is. It's dead. Dad? Dad is just resting. He's having a sleep. Resting? Resting? This is a dead parrot. It's an ex-parrot. It's gone to join the choir invisible. It is a dead parrot. See? So that's funny. It's funny because it's an odd situation, but it's in the context of something that happens a lot. A person going into a shop to complain about something. So they twist that idea and make it a little more surreal and unusual. So Monty Python, I like Monty Python. I like their Spanish Inquisition.
Yes.
No one expects the Spanish Inquisition. So what makes you laugh, Steve?
Nothing.
I've noticed that. Da 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 da. Wasn't that a song by Trio? Da 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 says British humour is offensive and idiotic. Ooh. So there we see we have an opposing view there, Steve.
Well, it's in the eye of the beholder, isn't it? What some things make other people laugh, other things don't.
Yes.
It just depends on your background, where you come from, your culture. All sorts of factors are involved in that. And some people, if you're more mature, you might appreciate different forms of humour. It totally depends on whether you find it funny at that particular moment, or lots of factors.
Yes, lots of things that can go in there. We were watching Laurel and Hardy last week, weren't we, Steve? Oh, I love Laurel and Hardy.
Well, that's an example of slapstick comedy.
So that's a kind of comedy that is visual.
Visual and relies on exaggerated movements and protect, like hitting people with planks of wood.
Yes.
It's not really hurting them. It's almost like it's very cartoonish.
Yes. The most common one is custard pies.
Yes.
Throwing custard pies into each other's faces. Did you know that Laurel and Hardy were the first people to be shown in bed, two men in bed together? Did you know that?
Okay. No, I didn't know that.
Yes, it's true. Here they are again. Here's a bit of trivia. Do you know which which comedy programme this featured in?
No.
Friends. It was actually on the wall of the Joey and Chandler. So it was in their room for the whole of the run of Friends. That picture was on the wall.
Right,
So
okay.
I hope you enjoyed that. And finally, here's one of my favourite Laurel and Hardy films. This is what I told you about the other day. It's brilliant. It's called Bratz. And it uses some amazing special effects. So you have Laurel and Hardy on the screen and they're playing children. But also you have the grown-up versions of them as well on the same shot, which I think is amazing because that was about 1929. And they're using composite effects way back in the late 1920s. Can you believe
A
it?
comic effect.
Yes, incredible. Anyway, I believe, Steve, you have something to show us.
I've got some words connected with humour. So if to crack up means that it can mean emotional breakdown, but in this context of humour, it just means to laugh. If you crack somebody up, it means you make them laugh. He always cracks me up means that somebody always makes you laugh. And it apparently derives from when women used to wear lots of thick makeup, and when they laughed, it would crack. It would crack in the face. So something that makes you laugh, it cracks you up.
I didn't know that.
If you are in stitches over something, it means you're laughing so much that it hurts. So if somebody tells a joke and you're laughing uncontrollably, and I'm sure you've all got to the point when you laugh so much, it literally does hurt because you're using a lot of muscles when you're laughing, and you can't smile anymore. All the muscles in your face are aching. All the muscles around your stomach are hurting. You're literally in stitches, which means it's painful. It's painful to laugh anymore. If a joke, if you tell a joke and nobody laughs at it, you can say that joke went down like a lead balloon. Obviously, balloons normally float. If you had one made of lead, it would sink to the floor. So if you tell a joke and nobody finds it funny, nobody laughs, you can say, well, that joke went down like a lead balloon. But it doesn't have to be just jokes. You can make an announcement to somebody about something in a workplace, and nobody responds very well to your idea. It doesn't have to be a joke. It can be just an idea. You've got to do something new at work. Nobody likes it. So you can say that idea went down like a lead balloon. So in other words, nobody likes it. Tongue-in-cheek. If you tell a joke tongue-in-cheek, you normally have a certain facial expression when you say that. It means that you're saying something jokingly, but you appear to be serious as you're saying it, often sarcastically. So you and you might wink at the same time. Oh, Mr. Duncan, you're going out for a run later, are you? You're not really going to, but you're saying it in a sarcastic way. So if you say something tongue-in-cheek, you're saying something that appears to be serious, but in fact you're joking. And often you can get yourself in trouble if people misunderstand what you're trying to say. So you could say his comments were intended to be tongue-in-cheek, but his friends took it seriously and there was a big argument.
It is amazing as well how much comedy involves tongue-in-cheek humour. So it's something that's done in a very serious way. So maybe you can have a documentary that appears serious, but it's actually being made as a comedy. So it looks serious. There is a famous documentary about a rock group called Spinal Tap. And that is a documentary about a group that doesn't even exist. So it's kind of making fun of the documentary that talks about or shows rock bands or music groups. So it's Spinal Tap. It's one of the funniest things ever. It is. It really is. So it's a documentary, but it's a joke. It's all done tongue in cheek.
Here's another expression. You've got to be kidding. You've got to be kidding. So you say that when people don't believe what somebody's telling you, and you're saying to them that you think it's a joke. So if you said, if I came back one day and said to Mr. Duncan, you'll never believe it, I just saw an elephant walking down the street. And Mr. Duncan might say, you've got to be kidding. It's something that seems unbelievable. And that's the phrase. If somebody says something to you that appears to be unbelievable, it could be anything. Like, oh, you'll never believe it, the boss has just quit. And you might say, you've got to be kidding, because he's been there for years and nobody ever thought he would go. So you might say there might be a news article saying that the Queen has abdicated, and you might say, you must be kidding.
Yeah, you're so
You'll never
shocked.
do. They're so shocked, it's unbelievable. You must be kidding.
So kidding can also mean joking. You are making a joke. You are kidding. You can also pull someone's leg as well.
You can, yes, pull somebody's leg. That's a joke. Laughing stock. This is something you don't want to be. You never want to be the laughing stock. It means that you've said something so stupid, or you've done something so stupid, that amongst your peer group or amongst anybody that is important, they're all laughing at you, not with you. They're laughing at you. You've said something so stupid. For example, if you were to ask me to spell a word, and I spelled an obvious word completely incorrectly, you might laugh at me and say, God, that he's supposed to be an English teacher. How stupid. And then everybody starts laughing and you become the laughing stock of the teaching world. But it could be anything. You might do something stupid, like fall off your chair and everybody starts laughing at you. It's a stupid thing that you've done. And it's not very nice if you become the laughing stock. Everyone's laughing at you and you feel very bad. But sometimes people do stupid things. And that's the way it is. I mean, for example, if you were a politician and you were always talking about moral issues, and about moral society, and then suddenly you were caught having an affair with somebody else other than your wife, you would become a laughing stock because you were doing something utterly stupid. You were telling everybody to be moral, and then you were being amoral yourself. So you would become the laughing stock. So that's just a few phrases, Mr. Duncan, around
Yes, I'm just trying to
around
find
humour.
something here. If I can find it. No.
Oh, do you want me to carry on with another word while we're...
Yes. Let's have another one.
Slapstick. Slapstick comedy. We've sort of already talked about this. It's exaggerated physical humour. Really that anyone can find funny. Children find slapstick comedy funny because it's very physical humour. It actually comes from... it's quite ancient style of humour. There used to be a piece of board with a stick on it that made a loud slapping noise. So that if you hit somebody over the head with it, it made an exaggerated sound, which sounded like you were really whacking them across the head with it. But in fact, because there was another stick behind it, banging against it, it made the sound. It made an exaggerated sound,
So like a sound effect.
So Laurel and Hardy, Charlie Chaplin, lots of the silent comedies comedians used slapstick, but physical humour is used a lot in humour still today.
Yeah, that's
And
pretty
it's
good.
funny.
That's very interesting. I didn't know that. By the way, laughing stock. This was one of my mystery idioms a few weeks ago. So laughing stock. So there is a very good
Right.
demonstration of laughing stock. And it means to be the object of ridicule or to be viewed as ridiculous.
That's it. If you do something that your peer group thinks is stupid, right, yes, then you will become a laughing stock.
To be
You
viewed.
could become the laughing stock of the school if you do something stupid and all the other children laugh at you, and you do something silly in class, like you answer or ask a silly question to the teacher, maybe, or you give a stupid answer or a silly answer. Everybody in the class laughs at you. You become a laughing stock.
Yes. Now, we were talking about TV shows. Here's one that many people watching right now will know. Don't moan about this. This is one of the most popular TV shows for people that watch my videos. So, watch your step. Mind Your Language is a TV show, and I'm sure many of you out there have watched it. But for those who don't know, Mind Your Language was a British TV comedy, and it ran from 1977 to 1979. 3 series were originally made, with a 4th made in 1986. But Series 4 was only shown once and is now believed to be lost.
Fascinating.
So, yes,
That was sarcasm, Mr. Duncan.
a lot of people might find that fascinating, though, for real. So, Mind Your Language. How many people watching at the moment have watched Mind Your Language? There are some people that think that it's offensive. Some people think that it's racist. But actually, the show itself has nothing to do with racism. It is actually doing the opposite. It's actually bringing people from lots of different cultures together. And quite often, the main character, Mr. Brown, would often scold the class for being intolerant towards each other. So a lot of people make comments about things they don't really know or they haven't watched. They just become offended by it, but they haven't even seen it. So Mind Your Language is not about racism. It isn't encouraging racism. If anything, it's encouraging the opposite, the very opposite, which is bringing people together, which has to be a good thing when you think about it. Yes, Matrix has watched Mind Your Language, Steve.
Good.
I get the feeling that Steve isn't a fan of Mind Your Language.
It's all right.
I love it. In fact, I might say that it was one of the TV shows that encouraged me in the past to think about doing teaching. So, yes, so because of that show, I'm now teaching English. So, yeah.
Matrix is bang up to date there by saying, have you seen Kunk on Britain?
Sorry?
So we've got to be careful how we say that.
Oh, my goodness. My stomach just went over. I wondered what you said then.
I was just reading Matrix's comment, have you seen Kunk on Britain?
Ooh, yes,
We have.
Philomena. Let's call her Philomena.
Yes.
Just in case the subtitles get it wrong.
So she's got a name that sounds like something else.
Oh, yes.
So that makes her stand out. But we have seen it and it's very funny.
Yes, but it's like a documentary, but it's done in a jokey way. It's done tongue-in-cheek, like what we said earlier. So, yes, that's a very it's a very good programme. I liked it so much, says Andrew, another fan of Mind Your Language.
That's 2.
So, Andrew, yes, I like it very much. Barry Evans was great. He was. Sadly, he's no longer around. He died many years ago. I'm a Sikh. But, yes, that's it. Pamela says, I am Sikh. But someone thinks it means sick.
That's another pun.
In the class. That's actually from one of the episodes.
That's another pun.
My favourite character was Ali. I used to love Ali so much, and he would always go up to people and say, "Squeeze me, please," when he meant, "Excuse me, please." So, yes, I love Mind Your Language. I love it. I think it's very, very funny. And it's not racist. It's not racist. So there, I think we're almost out of
I
time.
think we are, yes.
That's
I think
it.
we are.
It's 4 o'clock, and are you happy, Steve?
I'm fine, yes. I'm very happy, Mr. Duncan.
I was starting to worry. I thought maybe I'd upset Steve somehow. Because did you see his face change? He went from to like that now. Why?
I'm fine, Mr. Duncan. I'm absolutely fine.
Now it is true that you are an actor in your life.
Well, amateur dramatics.
So we haven't used your camera today.
Good.
So why is that good?
Well, it's a bit. I found it a bit awkward, Mr. Duncan. But anyway, what do you want to do?
We were talking about laughing and humour, and there are many ways of showing how happy you are at a certain moment of time. There are different types of smile. So I thought it would be nice for Mr. Steve to demonstrate certain types of smile
I can have a go.
on his personal camera, and hopefully it will cheer him up.
I can have a go, Mr. Duncan.
So here we go. So now Steve is on his personal camera. Here
Hello.
There he is. Now, Steve, there are different types of smile. When we think about smiling, there are actually many different types of smile. So here's the first one, the first type of smile.
I can't read it, Mr.
No,
Duncan.
I'm going to say it. So this is for
Okay.
the viewers. This is for people watching on YouTube. Grin. Grin.
Grin.
Grin. So, Mr. Steve, show us your grin. So, a grin, when someone grins, it's normally a very wide smile.
Showing your teeth.
Quite often you will show your teeth as well. So, when a person grins, quite often it means the smile is wide, and you might also say it's exaggerated slightly.
I would say so. Grins, I think when people, yeah, it's an exaggerated smile.
Yes. So you grin, you show all of your mouth and quite often your teeth. There is a great expression in English, grin and bear it. If you grin and bear it, it means you try to stand something. You try to enjoy it even though you are not.
You might be smiling with your lips, but not with your eyes.
Yes. So maybe you are smiling here, but here your eyes don't look happy. So you grin and bear it. Some people say that you have to grin and bear this live stream.
Do they?
I'm sure someone's saying it somewhere. Here's a good one. So how about a wry smile? Wry smile. Oh, yes, very good, Steve. You can tell Steve is definitely an actor. You can tell. So there is Steve with his wry smile. So it's kind of a half smile. It isn't a full smile. It's a half smile. So maybe you're kind of smiling, but really you're not. It's kind of a half smile, doing something wryly.
You're sort of maybe thinking of something else as you're smiling. You're almost pretending to laugh.
Yes. Another one. Smirk. Smirk.
Smirk, okay.
Let's see your smirk, Steve. I love the sound. Do it again. That's brilliant, brother.
You're laughing at something, but you probably shouldn't laugh, and you're trying to stop the laugh.
That might be the funniest thing we've done today. Do it one more time. Okay. Oh dear. And
I
what,
think that's a smirk.
yes, I think smirk is sort of it's sort of almost like sarcastic, or if you're being maybe a little unkind to someone, you might smirk at them. And finally, this is one I want to see everyone do, not just Steve. I want to see everyone do this. Beam. So, Steve, can you please show us your beam? Oh, there he is. There's Mr. Steve beaming. Can you see his lovely beaming face? There is Steve beaming. Yesterday we went for a lovely meal and Mr. Steve was sitting at the table and his face was glowing. You might say that he was beaming.
Just means you're smiling with your face, your eyes, everything.
That's it.
Beaming. You're very happy. You're very pleased with yourself. Everything, you just feel very happy. Everything's wonderful. Oh, it's wonderful.
So that's it. So thanks for helping us there, Steve, with your amazing acting. That was fantastic. One last look at the
Get
live.
some work.
One last look at the live chat. Who knows? We didn't even have a look at what your resolutions were for this year.
No,
I'm
I'm not sharing my resolutions.
I believe Steve has some big plans. That's all I'm saying. I think he's having his sex change, finally. He's going to become Sylvia.
That's not going to happen, Mr. Duncan. Definitely not.
I thought it had already started.
I don't know what you're talking about, Mr. Duncan.
That's very nice. Let's talk like two ladies. So, did you go shopping yesterday?
No, I didn't.
Did you go shopping on Saturday?
No, I didn't.
Didn't you? Why not?
Because I didn't feel very well, Mr. Duncan.
I like to go shopping every day
Well, good for you.
because I'm a woman, and that's what women like
That's
to do.
very sexist, Mr. Duncan.
That's not sexist.
That's very sexist.
That's not sexist. It's funny. It's funny because it's true. We're going now. Thank you very much for smiling. I had to get Mr. Steve to smile because he was looking really miserable and people were tuning away. Well done, Mr. Steve. Thanks a lot, Mr. Steve and Mr. Duncan, for smiling. Oh, you are welcome, Le Harry. Also, Matrix, Mohammed, Julie, thanks a lot for joining us today. I hope you've enjoyed this. It's now 4:10. We're doing overtime.
We are, and it's time for a tea cake.
And before we go, let's just have one last look at the time when we are on. Don't forget, you can catch us every single Sunday. Sunday from 2 p.m. UK time. And of course, if you want to make a donation, because we do all of this for free, all of my lessons, there are nearly 600 lessons on my YouTube channel. So the details are underneath this video. You can see all of the details, all of the playlists. And if you want to send a donation to help this continue, because that's why we are here, to help you with your listening and your speaking and your reading and your pronunciation, your vocabulary, everything in fact. We will see you next Sunday from 2 p.m. UK time. All donations will be gladly accepted, especially from the couple who won this £115 million this week on the lottery. Can you believe it?
Don't think they need to learn English, Mr. Duncan.
No, but they might send a nice donation. Who knows?
They won't be watching.
We are going. Mr. Steve, thanks for your help.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Duncan, and see you all next week.
We are doing what we do every week. We are going to have a cup of tea and a tea cake. And then tonight, salmon. Did you get the salmon out?
No,
Oh dear. We didn't.
it's in the deep freeze, but it will only take about 2 hours to defrost.
Okay, so we've
So
got
we'll
time.
be fine.
So we have salmon tonight, for those who are wondering. We are going. Thanks a lot, Steve.
Bye-bye. See you next week.
And we will leave with something that I did this week. I went for a lovely walk this week and I decided to film the frosty ground. You can see in the distance, you can see there is lots of frost on the ground. It was very cold. And at the moment in the UK, the weather is quite chilly, quite cold. Let's have another view before we go. So this was taken during the week on one of my big walks because, of course, now, due to my New Year's resolution, I have decided to have regular walks every day, twice a day. I now go for walks because, well, I'm trying to stay healthy, to be honest. And that's one of my New Year's resolutions for 2019. Well, that's almost it from me for today. See you next Sunday, 2 p.m. UK time. And I hope we will all be here once again. Have a great week. Enjoy English. This is Mr. Duncan in the birthplace of English saying thanks for watching me today. Thanks also to the lovely Mr. Steve and to you for watching. And of course, you know what's coming next. Yes, you do. Until next Sunday. Ta-ta for now.